diamonds, rubies, sapphires, gold, silver, and bronze. These raw materials can be combined to create dazzling pieces of jewelry and highly coveted works of art. The military also has its eyes on many rare and precious metals. Only these elements, like titanium, chromium, and manganese, are critical to our nation's defenses and national security. The government agency responsible for building up these commodities is the Defense Logistics Agency's Strategic Materials. As America's Combat Logistics Support Agency, DLA provides military and federal customers with the full spectrum of logistics, acquisition, and technical services. As stewards of the National Defense Stockpile, DLA Strategic Materials oversee 31 materials with a total market value of $1.3 billion.
The mission of DLA Strategic Materials is outlined in the Stockpiling Act, and that's our basic guiding document. And within that act, it says that we are to preclude a costly and dangerous dependence on foreign sources, as well as single points of failure of any strategic or critical materials within the supply chain during times of national emergency.
We'll monitor prices, news of certain commodities. We'll look at the supply chain for those commodities and see if there are any potential issues, supply issues, gaps in the supply chain. What we look at is if the material is processed domestically here in the United States.
Now, let's dive a little deeper into a few of DLA Strategic Materials' vital partnerships. This is one way to define the word insensitive, but at the Holston Army Ammunition Plant, the word insensitive means taking care of people and saving lives. Triamino trinitrobenzene, or TATB, is a type of explosive used by both the Departments of Defense and Energy because it is insensitive. DLA Strategic Materials is working with strategic partners to ensure this explosive is readily available when needed.
When you hear the word insensitive, like insensitive munitions, what we're referring to is that it's insensitive to unplanned stimuli. So, for instance, if a munition gets hit by a bullet, or if it's caught in a fire, or if it's dropped, or if other munitions close by detonate, that these materials won't detonate.
It's used in a wide array of munition systems, including artillery, mortar systems, bombs. It's also utilized by the Department of Energy. It's used as part of the initiation train in our nuclear warheads.
We partner with a host of organizations, starting with the OSD or the DoD level. We also work closely with other federal agencies like Commerce and Census and the U.S. Geological Survey. We also participate in a White House working group.
What we do is we look for vulnerabilities in supply chains. In this case, in the insensitive high explosive, you have TATB. Well, that had a clear-cut vulnerability.
The previous United States sources had closed down their manufacturing. The main international supplier that was being used also closed down, and the others that are available do not have a large enough capacity for the DoD and DOE needs.
We incorporated the TATB operation into the current agile manufacturing plant at Holston Army Ammunition Plant.
So we've come in and we've participated in this program to actually build up a domestic stockpile of TATB to mitigate against that risk.
These tools that the DLA is providing and the DoD is providing is helping our warfighters to protect our warfighters and to help them return home safely from their missions.
Quick, how many elements make up the periodic table? If you said 118, you are correct. Number 32 on the periodic table is germanium, and this important element has important uses in everyday life and in the military. DLA Strategic Materials knows how valuable germanium is and is managing a program that is converting germanium metal in the current inventory to epitaxial-ready wafers that support solar power for U.S. Air Force and satellite programs.
In nature, germanium occurs in trace amounts. So for example, every time you eat an apple, you're consuming about 4 parts per million of this metal, germanium. We decided to get into this business and manufacture germanium substrates because we felt the U.S. needed a secure domestic supply of a defense-critical product.
So this is an example of a piece of germanium. As you can see, it's gray in color, it's highly reflective, and it absorbs visible light. But if you were to look at it in the infrared, it would transmit just like a window. So that makes germanium very useful for military applications because it's used in optics and lenses for night vision systems. This crystal here weighs approximately 156 pounds. This crystal will yield thousands of wafers that will then be made into individual solar cells that can go on satellites as their power plants.
We maintain complete wafer traceability throughout our production facility. That means if you have any specific questions about a DLA wafer, we can view what crystal the wafer came from, what material went into the crystal, what process steps the wafer went through.
The DLA contract to upgrade a portion of the DLA germanium inventory to unfinished germanium wafers was a $1.3 million contract to put 60,000 wafers into storage.
What do the space shuttle, smartphones, and laser eye surgery have in common? Well, it's elemental, my dear Watson, and it's number 4 on the periodic table, beryllium. Beryllium is a rare metal that is not only used in everyday items, but also has unique applications for strategic weapons.
Beryllium is one of the lightest materials on the periodic table, but it has a great strength-to-weight ratio.
In fact, it's 1/3 lighter than aluminum. In addition to it, it's extremely stiff, 6 times as stiff as steel.
Those properties are best suited for applications where things might be in the air. So aerospace applications, satellites, airplanes, that kind of thing.
Beyond that, beryllium has other unique characteristics. It's transparent to X-rays. So what does that mean? Is when you take an X-ray will shoot right through beryllium as if it wasn't there. Also enables people in theater to see from surveillance satellites and air surveillance aircraft things that are happening on the battlefield, both in visible light and in infrared. What does that do for the warfighter? It enables you to be further away from the action and see what's going on.
There's only one domestic producer of beryllium, so it's important that DLA Strategic Materials maintain a reserve of beryllium in case something should happen to that facility.
Materion has a long-term relationship with the Defense Logistics Agency with regard to strategic materials.
We're currently upgrading the beryllium stockpile to put it into a form that's more easily used. It can be processed by more than one processing facility.
We are upgrading the existing stockpile with new current materials that should enable the stockpile moving forward to be able to handle the emergency and urgent needs of the warfighter for many years into the future.
DLA Strategic Materials is a leader in stockpiling and strategic sourcing. Its dedicated employees not only have the ability to leverage buying power and ensure timely availability of materials, they also provide constant surveillance of the global marketplace. DLA Strategic Materials, supporting the present and looking toward the future.